the previous classes? Okay, so in the previous class, we were discussing about the different types of leadership, right? What are the different styles of leadership, rather? Okay, we know what is leadership, what is the principle behind it. We are seeing what are the qualities we have to look for in a leader, and then we were seeing about the different styles of leadership. So the first, there are actually three styles of leadership which we have to prepare for, right? We need to study three types of leadership. What so what and all are they? First one is based on the authority. Okay, based on the authority used by the leader, there are three types of leadership, right? What are they? The first one is authoritarian, right? Authoritarian leadership. What is authoritarian leadership? Authoritarian leadership means the leader is like an autocrat, right? It's an autocracy basically. So here the leader, the one who is in supreme position. Okay, he is a supreme position, and he makes all the decisions. Here, as far as the subordinates are concerned, they have no role. Okay, they have no role in decision making. So what happens basically is that the leader makes a decision and announces it, right? And how does this system work? System works primarily because the leader has the power to withhold uh, rewards, okay, or he has the power to grant rewards or even punishments. So using that as a motivation is that is the motivation behind this leadership, right? So basically, subordinates have no role. Okay. So what is the basic strength of this leadership? The strength is there's no delay in decision making. Okay, decision making is prompt, right? Because the leader is the one who is making the decision. And as far as the responsibility is considered concerned, the assigning of responsibility is also easy because the leader can easily assign the responsibility, and vice versa is also true because it's the leader's decision that all are following. The decision is wrong, the leader is the one who is at fault, right? So even though we feel that it's not a good style of leadership, but there are circumstances, there are instances when this leadership, okay, uh, am I audible? Is there an issue? Okay, so there are instances. Okay, there are instances when this style of leadership is good, right? What are they? When the condition is that the subordinates, okay, the subordinates do not have the expertise, they lack the knowledge, or they do not have the experience. In that kind of a situation, this leadership can do well, right? Now, what is the weakness of this or limitations of this leadership? Basically, we know the subordinates have no role, like their role is zero. So basically, what happens is their confidence and their morale is generally very low in this type of leadership, right? Also, because leader is the one who's making all the decisions here, right? So what happens is the ideas, the capabilities of subordinates, they are not fully utilized here, right? Because leader doesn't listen to anyone as far as this is concerned. Okay, clear? The second style of leadership, it is democratic or participative leadership. So in this style of leadership, what happens is the leader consults with the subordinates. Okay, he consults with the subordinates and encourages their participation. Right? It's not only consulting, but he encourages their participation. So the leader values the subordinates' opinion. Right? So he creates a good team over here. And what are the strengths? Strength is because subordinates take part in the leadership or decision making process. So they get better job satisfaction in that kind of environment. They'll get better job satisfaction. It increases their morale and basically creates a positive environment. Okay? A positive attitude is generated on the whole. Clear? Now, what is the weakness of this leadership? Weakness is Again, because leader is consulting with the subordinates, the decision making will be slow. It takes a lot of time. Okay, so it's time consuming and the decision making gets delayed. In the first case, authoritarian or autocratic style, decision making is prompt. Right? And here also, it requires proper communication between the subordinates and superiors. Because the leader cannot say, I didn't hear to him. I didn't hear what he said, or I didn't understand what he said. Subordinates cannot say, I didn't, same thing as subordinates also. I couldn't understand what he has said. Okay. Or something is lost in the translation. That should not happen. It should be very clear. The communication lines, it should be very clear. And both the leader and the subordinate should be heard clearly and uh, without any ambiguities. Okay, it should be very clear. That is the main thing. So that was a proper communication between subordinates and superiors. So that is the second type of leadership based on authority. Okay. What is the third type of leadership? Third type of leadership based on authority is, so learn it like this. Third type of leadership based on authority or based on usage of authority is free range leadership. So in free range leadership, complete freedom is given to the subordinates. Okay. The leader over here uses very little power. Okay. And even if sometimes what will happen, he uses no power. And what is the result of this? A very high degree of independence for the subordinates. Okay. And what does the leader do over here actually? What he does is he actually frames the policy. Okay. He frames the policy and asks the subordinates to implement it. Right? Like what we have in our company, like ad company, we had to do this. This our pen ad has to be created. This is the scenario. This is our budget. Do this. Okay? You have to do this. That is the free reign leadership. The person who has to do this, he may adopt autocratic leadership. He may adopt uh, democratic leadership. That is the next phase. But in the initial phase, it's like this. Okay, and this type of leadership is not suitable everywhere. You can imagine, right? If you given complete freedom, there will be anarchy. So it will be better. It is better suitable where creative ideas are needed or creative businesses. Right? What is the strength of this leadership? Strength is complete utilization of the abilities of subordinates. Okay, they are given the complete freedom, right? So they are, can be completely utilized to create job satisfaction and increases morale. Now, what is the weakness of this leadership? Weakness, basically, there is no leadership, right? The subordinates has to do everything. So there is no leadership. And the second thing is subordinate does not get any guidance or support, right? So what happens is in the second here, effectively what is happening? The subordinate, he has to do everything by himself. So he's when I'm saying he has to do everything by himself, he's got the power. Okay? He's got the power to execute it, right? He's got the power to do whatever he wants. He cannot go and expect someone leader for consultation, right? That is the case over here. So he doesn't have any person to ask for guidance or support, right? So there's no leader. The next style of leadership is based on managerial grit. The first one was based on usage of authority. The second one is based on managerial grit. Okay, this was developed by Robert Blake and Jane Mouton, and this grit they use a grit to describe the various managerial styles, right? So there is the grid has, so we saw this is the grid, right? So the grid has 81 cells from 0 to 9 on either side, right? So on the horizontal axis or x-axis we have concern for production, and then the y-axis we have concern for people, right? So what is this concern for production? Concern for production means it, or rather it includes the attitude of the supervisor towards things such as quality of the decision, procedure, processes, service, work efficiency, and output volume, right? So here the manager or the leader is or person if he sorry he is concerned or he is bothered with what is the output. Okay, output volume is there, but how it is done. Okay, not how much on day, but how it is done. Output, how much is there, but how it is done, it is also to be looked for. So attitude of the supervisor, towards things such as that is what are all that quality of the decisions, policy decision. What are is our decisions right or wrong? What is its quality? The procedure, the processes we use, the service, quality of the service. What is our work efficiency? All these things, everything and anything related with the production is or the product is bothered or concerned for the authority, okay, in concern for production. And when we say concern for people, it includes elements as degree of personal commitment, and that's related to people. What is the goal, commitment for goal achievement? How can we maintain the self-esteem of the workers? Placement of the responsibility should be based on the trust rather than obedience. Okay, you should not always go for yes man, yes man. There will be people, okay, who will agree to everything what you say. There will be yes man, but you should not go for that. You should go for trust. Okay, then you should maintain a satisfying interpersonal relationships, right? Yeah. So these are the two axes or two concerns: concern for production and concern for people. Now the horizontal axis represents concern for production, and the vertical axis represents concern for people. We saw, right? So the basic there are 81 cells. So each this managerial grid, or the we can call it as Blake Mouton model, identifies 5 leadership styles. Okay, what are they? So, the first one is style 1-1. Okay, style 1-1, which is present in the lower left corner. Okay, that style is known as impoverished style. So rather learn style 1-1 and impoverished style. Okay, learn the name also. If you cannot recall it by any chance, you can use as style 1-1, but better you have to learn the name itself, impoverished style. Okay, impoverished style 1-1. Okay, so it's located at the lower left corner. So you can see here 1 is low and 9 is high, right? So the concern for people is low, concern for production is also low. So the manager here is not bothered with anything. He is bothered with only himself, right? He puts in minimum effort for his survival. He is not bothered about the survival of the company, or rather company as a people who works under him. He just acts as a messenger from the top to the bottom. He's just a conduit. That's the 1-1 or impoverished style, very poor style. Okay. The second style is authoritarian or autocratic style. So that's in the right corner. Okay, bottom right. So 9 means first we have X and Y, right? So 9 means here concern for production is very high, but concern for people is very low, right? So what happens is here the leader is concerned with only the goal, production. Okay, and the employees are not relevant for him, relevant to him. For him, the employees are just machines. He treats them as a machine, and he exhibits an autocratic behavior. He works with the discipline and instructions only. Okay, that is 9-1. Okay? Don't get confused and interchange them. Okay, 9-1. There is 9-1. There is 1-9. So draw the chart, draw the grid, then only write the answer. Because you may get confused. Okay, first one is production. Second one is people. Okay, third style is style 1-9. Okay, top right corner. So what happens here is here it's also known as country club style. Okay, in country club style, what happens is it's located at the left hand corner of the grid, right? Top left. 1-9. Top left. Here again, it's 1. Nine. So production is concern for production is 1, concern for people is 9. So there is a very high role over here. He creates an environment in which people are happy. Everyone is happy. Everyone is relaxed. Everyone is friendly, and no one is bothered about achievement of organization goal. That will happen somehow. It's that kind of a scenario. Okay, that is 1-9. The fourth one is 9-9. Okay. So 9-9 means it is team manager style, team manager. Okay. So according to this model, this is the best, most effective leadership, right? So 9-9 means it is located at the top right corner, right? So here concern for people is 9, concern for production is also 9, very high. Both are very high. So what happens is the manager is able to mesh together or gel together the need of the people and the production process. Okay? Production need and need of the individuals are meshed together in this case. Okay? So the managers are very highly motivated. They are highly dedicated. So they through their actions. Okay, it's they through their actions. We say like all talk and no show. Okay, all talk and no go. It's not like that. He is not only talk, he is ready to come down and work. He, through his actions, he display highest possible dedication to people and production. Right. The fifth one is middle of the road side. So in the between, then the 5-5. Okay, 5-5 style. 5-5 style means middle of the road. That is just understand for the term my 5-5. So we are having a balance between production and people. Okay. So what happens is the objective is to maintain an employee morale at a sufficient level to achieve the organization goal. And this organization goal is also not too high. Okay. So in our pen company, you say we need to produce 500 pens. Okay. We are going to produce 500 pens. And I will be maintaining it in such a way that 500 pens are produced. Okay, my employee morale will be such that, or I'll rate to people like in such a way that they are able to produce 500 pens. Okay, not 501 and not 499. Okay, that's my case. So 500, is it 500 enough? No, it's only uh, subpar. It's middle. It's an average production. Okay, so for me, the height, the morale is such that that can be achieved, and the goal which is not too high. Okay. Now, what are the advantages of this managerial grid? Advantages is it is useful for identify and classify manager styles, right? It can be used as an instrument for organization development, successfully improving attitudes and behavior of people, right? So what happens here is 5-5. Okay. If I'm starting a business, I can I can opt for 5-5. Okay. What should I opt for? I should opt for 9-9, but it may not be possible from the go. So what I'll do, I'll start with 5-5. So I'll keep the production at a average level, and I'll try to keep my employees motivated so that they can achieve this. So once they are achieving this, I can slowly and gradually increase my level to 6-6, 8-8, and 9-9. So I can use this as an instrument for development. Okay, so I can successfully improve attitudes and behavior of people. Right. Now, what are the disadvantages? Disadvantages is that it does not indicate which part of the grid. Okay, or why part of the or why a certain marriage style belongs in certain part. There is no reason for that. They have taken 9 maximum, 1 minimum. Other way around is also possible, but it's just an arbitrary distribution, right? Then more dimensions of leadership can be relevant. So we'll see that. Then neglects the significance of internal and external constraints, circumstances, and situations. So here only, right? Only what are considered only people and production as considered, but the external environment it's not considered over here, right? That was the second classification of leadership. First one is based on authority, usage of authority. Second one is based on managerial grid. Now the third one was leadership as a continuum, right? Leadership as a continuum. So what does continuum basically mean? Continuum means you might see the EMR spectrums, right? Electromagnetic spectrums. So you know it's a range. So blue, green. There is a visual, right? We say even though we say we have 3 basic standardly RGB, right? Green and blue. But if you take the spectrum, you can see what. See, if this is a spectrum, what is happening? It's actually ranging. It's gradually changing. Like we say, right? It is changing from one color to another. But we cannot actually get a distinction between blue, green, and red. It's actually spreading out. Right? This is what a continuum is. Okay? It ranges from one end to other. Right? So this is what we mean by a continuum. Now, over here in leadership continuum, what happens is we are changing from a boss-centered leadership to subordinate-centered leadership. So one end we have boss-centered, the other end we have subordinate-centered. Okay. One here more authority is there. Here on the other hand there is more freedom. Okay. Subordinates have got more role. Okay. So this thing gradually changes from one end to another. So that's what you mean by leadership as a continuum. Okay. So what happens in this model was developed by Robert Tannenbaum and Warren H. Schmidt, right? And the concept is the leadership involves a variety of styles ranging from them that is highly boss-centered to one that is highly subordinate, as we saw right in the figure. Now, the appropriate leadership style depends upon three. One is leader, the follower, and the situation, right? As we see, so you might have seen your teacher. They will so three people. He or she will be behaving in three different ways. Okay. So if I am the leader, I have three subordinates under me. So towards one, I may use an autocratic approach. Okay, you have to do this. Towards one, I will be using. I'll be okay. You can do this. You do this. You do according to yourself. Okay. A third person, what will happen is, I may discuss. I may consult. Okay. So it depends upon me as a leader, on my subordinates as a follower, and the general situation which we are in. Right. So according to Tannenbaum and Schmidt, the most important elements that influences a manager's style can be seen along a continuum are which one? So the first is forces operating manager's personality. What makes me me? Okay, what I'm the manager? What makes my personality? What are traits of my? The first one is my value system. Okay, what is my value? Okay, what is my belief? If I am having a belief that I should develop the next generation, right? If that is my value, so I'll help my subordinates to the maximum. Okay. If I am a selfish person, I am a lazy person, I will not do that. Right? In my value system, that is one. Then confidence in the subordinates. So how confident am I in this person? Okay. See, I am giving someone a free rein means I am confident in him that he will do his job. So my confidence in my subordinates. That's again the factor. The third one is a feeling of security. So how secure I am. Okay, how secure I am. See, if I have a feeling that if I help him, if he does better than what he's been doing, he may replace me, or he may go beyond me. So if I am that kind of person, if I am not, I am an insecure person. I don't have security. If I'm an insecure person, then again I will not help my subordinates. But if I am not there, if I want people to succeed, then again I will be helping them. Right? That is the forces operating the manager's personality. Now, second are the forces operating in the subordinates, which will affect the manager's behavior. Okay, forces acting in the subordinates, which will affect the manager. Okay, what are the attitude or traits in the subordinates? They are willingness to assume responsibility. So that person, if I am ready to give him responsibility, but he should be willing to take up the responsibility. So if he is a lazy person, then I will not give him the responsibility. Again, he should have the knowledge. Okay, he should have the experience to do the job. That is the traits or forces in the subordinates that will influence me. Okay. The third one is situation. What are the forces in the situation? It comes under what are the organization goals, the tradition, the nature of the problem, the pressure, right? What is my organization values? What is the tradition? Sometimes what will happen is if you join a new company, the tradition will be the juniors will not be taken up in the decision making. Okay, you are the junior fellow, sit, your time will come, then we will call up you. That may be the situation. Second one is nature of the problem. Okay, sometimes it will be a too big a problem, and I cannot include some person. Okay, so that may be how much time do I have? Do I have to make a quick decision? So I may not have the time to consult with the others. Okay, so these are the forces. One is the forces operating on the manager, forces on the subordinates that influence the manager, and forces on the situation. Forces in the situation. Okay. Now, what are the different styles according to continuum? So the first style is the manager makes decision and announces it. Basically, an authoritarian style. The manager makes a decision and he announces it. Moving to the right, the next is manager sells his decision. Okay, manager sells his decision. Manager sells his decision means So he has made a decision. Okay, he has made a decision, but he has to persuade the subordinates to accept his decision. Okay, it's not that he in the first case we are seeing that manager makes a decision and he announces it. You have to do this. Okay, now the second style of management is, or manager is, he has to convince the people that this is the right decision. This is what he has to do. Right? So he has to persuade the subordinates. Now, what is the third style is manager presents his decision, but or presents his ideas and invites question. Okay, that is the manager presents his decision, but he has to respond to questions, like we have seen the like a press conference. Like the minister will come in, he sits in the press conference, he will announce the decision. These are the decisions of the cabinet. That's what we have to do. Now, what will happen? The press will question him. Okay, why such a decision has been made? What is the background of such a decision? Now, what is the manager? He has to answer to that. Okay, he has to answer to that questions. Similarly, subordinates will have, raise questions on the decision, and if the question comes up, the manager is supposed to answer. In the first two cases, it is not that. In the first case, he has announced it. Second, he is selling the question. Now he is given. He is third case. He is giving an opportunity for them to ask the question. Okay. Now, what is the fourth style? Fourth style is manager presents tentative decision subject to change. Okay. So in the fourth style, what happens is manager say, okay, this is our decision. Okay, this is what we have to do, and this can be changed. I need to produce 500 pens, or I need to produce 1,000 pens. So that can change. Okay, it's a tentative decision. Okay. So it may be, it can come 1,000 may come, or 1,000 may, it may be 1,000 or something else. Okay. Fifth case, manager presents a problem, gets input from the subordinates, and then decides. Okay. So he'll say, okay, I have to go. We need to. We are not profiting making. In order to make profit, we should produce more. This more is how much? So today we are producing 500. We need to produce more than 500. The managers will discuss. They will discuss and they will come upon a value. Okay. It may be 600, it may be 750, it may be 1,000, it may be 2,000. Okay. Then after input from the subordinates, then only the decision is made. Okay. Then the sixth style is manager defines the limit with and asks groups to make a decision. Okay. Again, here also the same situation. So here, there the case was manager has given only the lower situation, 500. Okay, we need more than 500. Now what will happen? He said, I need more than 500 is must, and I need at least 1,500. Okay, and then he will decide. It's a minimum 500 and more 1,500. In between them, anything can be chosen. Right. The seventh style is the manager and subordinates jointly make decisions within the limits defined by the organization construct. Okay. So here, what will happen? The manager will basically permit the subordinates to work within the limits. That is, come up at 9, go at 5. Between 9 and 5, you should be at the office. You should do the work. Okay, or you should finish 1,000 units. After 1,000 units, you can do whatever you want. So they are giving a limit, and the subordinates has to operate within the limit. These are the continuum approach, right? So as you can see, the continuum approach offers a range of styles, okay, with no suggestion that one style is always right and another is always wrong. Based on the situation, based on the people, the decision style is being decided. That is continuum approach. Clear? So, basically from boss center to subordinate center, there is a range of seven different styles. So in each style, we can see the authority of the manager is decreasing. Yeah. The next topic is transactional or transformation leadership. Okay. The transactional transformation leadership means, first one, it's transactional, right? Transactional. So it's a traditional way. Okay. What we have been doing in transactional leadership, what happens is the transactional leaders identify what subordinates need to do to achieve objectives. So, okay, so I need to produce 1,000 pens. I have got A, B, C. Okay, what A has to do, what B has to do, what C has to do. So I identify that what these persons should do so that I can make 1,000 pens. So my objective is 1,000 beds. So what is the subordinates has to do? Okay, he clarifies organization roles and tasks. He sets up an organization structure. Okay, so A will answer to B will answer to C. Okay, A, B, and C will answer to D. Like that, he is reading a structure. He is defining the roles. He has given the task. So A has to produce, or A is in marketing. A has to do this thing. We have to do certain things. So he is defining everything very clearly. Okay, a transaction leader, and he rewards the performance. If he's done a good job, he'll reward the performance, reward them, and provide for social needs of the followers also. Okay. So what is their social need? Sometimes might need bonus. They might need an extra a few days off, right? Maybe a grievance cell. Okay, there are some issues in the within the facility. A grievance cell has to be set up. What are the social needs? That will be also be addressed by a transaction leader. Okay, so these leaders work very hard and try to run the organization effectively, efficiently, right? Now, what is the strength of this leadership? Strength is clearly defined roles and expectations. So I know what my leader expects from me, and my leader know what this person has to do. Okay? So my role is defined. My expectation from me is also defined. Now, what is the weaknesses? Weaknesses: creativity is limited as goals are set. So I need to produce 1,000 units. So my goal is set. So there is no room for creativity, right? So I'll produce. I have been producing 1,000 units. I will produce 1,000 units today. I'll produce 1,000 units tomorrow also. So everything is set. It goes in a routine way. So this is not fit for places that need innovation. Okay, where the people has to think, has to change, has to adapt, has to transform. Okay, that kind of place, this transaction is not fit. Right? The transaction leadership is the one in which the leader identifies the subordinates need to do, what subordinates need to do to achieve the objective, clarify the organization roles and tasks, set up an organization structure, reward performance, and provide for the social needs of the followers. Okay, here the leaders are extraordinarily working. They are hard workers. Now, the second type is transformational. You don't get confused with the terms. Transform means change. So, in this approach, the it's an approach that causes change in the people. Okay? There's a change in the people. So, in transformation, leaders present a vision, inspire, and motivate followers. Okay? They create a climate favorable for organization change. Okay? They are inspiring. They are presenting a vision. They're inspiring and motivating their followers. So basically, they are creating a favorable climate so that organization changes can take place. It's designed to transform the organization quickly to respond to the changes in the environment, because we know that there's rapid changes in the environment. Okay, lockdowns were there, lockdowns have come, and now restrictions are lifted. Tomorrow maybe again the restriction may come, so we need to adapt quickly. So according to that rapid changes, we need to transform our business, and this type of leadership will help in doing that. Right now, what is the strength? It finds a better way of doing things. Okay, we have been doing something in the past. Now we will get a better way of doing the same thing. Helps to change the system to accommodate the vision rather than working within the existing limitations. So if we have a problem in that, we should change that. We should not get used to it. Okay, in the road there will be potholes will be there. Okay, in the beginning we'll be what? We'll be angry. What is this? They are not fixing it up. But later what will happen? We will bend our vehicles. So we'll turn our vehicles that we avoid the potholes. Right? We'll get used to it. Right? If you remember the movie Swadesh, there was a scene where Shah Rukh said that people get they had the power shortage issues, right? When the power fails, people were so used to that they feel when the Diwali crackers were bursting, they were happy. They feel happy that lights are not there. Okay, people are getting used to it. That should not be the case. Okay, so that was the case when Shah Rukh decided to create a small dam and a power station over there. Right? Same way here also, if we are having a problem, okay, if we are a problem, we should change it. Okay, change it rather than work with it. Right? Now, what is the weaknesses? Chances of conflict with people to resist change. Okay, so people may not usually or always accept what is going on. In that movie itself, there were people who were opposing him. Okay? So people they were doing in certain things. They got used to it. So suddenly a change comes, they may not accept. They may object it. right? Then lacks conceptual clarity. So it should be very clear, okay? But we cannot be always very clear when we are making a innovative ideas. So we cannot say that we always have clear concepts. Okay? If you compare the transactional leaders uses rewards and punishments to initiate follows. Transformation leaders inspires and motivates the followers for achievement of goal. Right? Transactional leaders works uh, with the uh, works within the existing condition, and transformation leaders are the one who works for changing the present conditions. Okay? Transaction leaders, they focus on planning and execution. Transformation leaders focus on innovation. Right? Yeah. So we'll stop here for today. Please let me know if you have any doubts, or we'll move on.